What up, everybody? This is Double G for FGB Radio talking WWE Payback tonight. With me, the dirty white boy, Jason, who has also been filling in on the WrestleMania 30 for 30 podcast. So I appreciate Jason coming in tonight, doing some extra work with Payback Review. What's going on?
Oh, not much. We got finished Payback, and I would say it was a very, very enjoyable show. Going in, I was a little worried, but I kind of had the vibe that it's one of those shows that there's not much hype around, but that normally means the card's going to turn out really well. Otherwise, the best version of Payback would have been that Montel Jordan song with Coolio.
Okay, so I think the main worry is because, like you said, the card looked good on paper. And the worry was that these guys were going to get shortchanged on time. And while I missed the first hour or so of the show, so I'll lean on you for that stuff. But it seems like they found ways to give enough time to every match. And I didn't see. I guess there was one for the main event, but it seems like they took out a lot of the packages that they normally do for the show.
Yeah, I think the main event was the only one that really had a video package, and the Punk return was the only one I can recall, minus like the mini commercials that they're having in there now, which is still weird to me that pay-per-views have commercials in them. But yeah, and that I think helped everything work out. I mean, the pay-per-view was in a venue in a city in Chicago, which is always hot for wrestling, and I think if they ever every time they do a show there, it's just so fantastic. And it's my favorite city for not just professional wrestling, but sports. And, I mean, it came off well in terms of the in-ring work was fantastic. The crowd was great. So, I mean, only really one bad match, in my opinion.
Did you see the kickoff match?
No, I didn't see the kickoff match. I was eating dinner at that point.
Okay, good, because I am so down on Sheamus at this point. I think his character is awful, and either he's going heel or they just do not understand how to book baby faces, because he is very hateable if you watch the things that he does on TV. So I'm glad. Okay, so you didn't watch it. I didn't watch it. Supposedly the match was okay.
I heard it was really good, actually.
So he won with the bro kick. The problem with doing this kind of match and giving him 10 minutes is I've seen Sheamus and Damian Sandow go like 3 minutes, and Sheamus wins very easily. So kind of weird that their pay-per-view match is more competitive than their normal SmackDown match that we see all the time. So the opener was Wade Barrett and The Miz versus Curtis Axel for the IC title. Originally, Fandango was supposed to be in this match before he got hurt. I believe he had a concussion. So they pulled him out and they put Curtis Axel right into the mix. And I predicted on the preview that I wrote for Fight Game Blog that he would actually win it, because I think it's a great story for him. His father was one of the greatest intercontinental champions of all time. It's maybe with the belt on Axel, maybe they'll do something with it. They'll bring back a little bit of the what it used to have. So he beats both guys. And describe the finish to me. The way that it reads seems to be pretty creative, but I didn't see the match. So explain how the finish went down.
Well, basically, the finish went down as I want to say McGillicuddy, Axel. Charged in, and Miz sent him to the floor, which I swear they did that spot 4 minutes beforehand. So Axel was on the floor, and then Barrett got caught in the figure four, and it looks like he was going to go for the ropes, but Miz dragged him back. And as Miz had, Wade Barrett looked like totally beat and ready to tap out, Axel gets in there and just goes on top of Wade Barrett. The ref counts 1, 2, 3. Brand new Intercontinental Champion. A very creative finish, since it's a triple threat match, and way to use the face's finisher for the heel to pin the other heel without any heat or anything like that per se. But very creative. I was happy for Curtis Axel, as you said, because his father was one of the greatest Intercontinental champions. And I guess it's extra special for him to win it, on Father's Day. And considering, actually, it was 23 years ago today that Mr. Perfect, won his first Intercontinental title, winning that tournament. So, I mean, that's a big deal for him. And you could tell this belt meant a lot to him. He was like, getting really emotional and looking up into the sky. So big win for him. And I agree with you. I'd like to see them do something with the Intercontinental title, but I've said that with a bunch of other guys. Then they put the belt on, and they're probably not gonna.
The aftermath of this match. Explain Axel, Triple H, Vince, Paul Heyman, and all the stuff that happened.
Oh, it was just Curtis Axel was walking back, and Triple H just got in his way and wouldn't move, and then Vince came up and was congratulating Heyman and Axel, and then he was just like to Triple H, Curtis Axel versus Triple H live on Monday Night Raw, and Triple H is like, no, I don't want it. Like, okay, waste of time.
So why'd we go through all that stuff on Raw these last couple weeks? Okay, so next match is Caitlyn and AJ, and I thought this whole feud and build shows the difference between somebody who actually understands her character really well and someone who absolutely doesn't understand her character at all. And I don't even know if the writers understand her character, because Caitlyn is this really, just buff and strong woman who is the babyface champion, and AJ is this little string bean, tiny heel. And Caitlyn is the one who's very sensitive. Big E dumps. Big E kind of they did the thing on Monday where he said that he was the person who'd been giving her all these things, and then he kind of just laid her to the ground, and they laughed at her. And Caitlyn was very sad and just a terrible actress. So going into this match, it seemed to be given to me that AJ was going to win the title, and it sounds like it was a pretty good match. And AJ won with the move that she's actually been using, which is the octopus, the submission hold, which actually looks really cool on television. So was the match as good as I've sort of been hearing online and reading through all the write-ups? And I guess the comparison was to the TNA women's match that was actually really good of late, but I don't think anybody saw that one.
Well, I know a lot of people that actually did see that TNA match, and I would say the TNA match was better. Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell. I mean, Gail Kim carried Taryn Terrell, but what they did in that match is, pretty downright, extreme for a women's match, especially in today's society. I'd say this match was, for a WWE Divas match, really, really good, but I wouldn't say it was as good as that TNA match. I did like the little story elements that they added. I mean, if I would say this match lacked the in-ring for what TNA did, but it made up for it in terms of the storytelling and the character development, because now Caitlyn's character's now totally hit rock bottom as she got swerved by, AJ on that whole, secret admirer stuff, and now she lost, the one thing that meant everything to her, that Diva title. But when Caitlyn came out, she was like trying to, I guess, sell being depressed or angry, but it looked like she just had a stroke because her face was she had this snarl on. I was like, did she just have a stroke backstage? I don't know. I don't think she should come out there for this match, but no, they did a good job of that. So after she lost the belt, she was just crying and like pretty, almost hysterical and crying. So I'm actually intrigued to see what Caitlyn says tomorrow on Raw.
Now, with the belt, AJ is, AJ and Dolph and Big E, they were kind of teasing like this super group, but let's just talk about this now because I think it relates. In the world title match, which is actually 2 matches down the road, Dolph Ziggler and Alberto Del Rio, they face off, and the story of this match is that Del Rio is attacking Ziggler. Ziggler had the concussion, and sort of Del Rio's taking advantage of that. And then, Ziggler's doing all the babyface selling and all the babyface comebacks, and Del Rio kind of turns on the crowd a little bit, and then he does a promo after he wins the match with the kick to the head that that sort of makes it seem like he turns heel here. Now, does Ziggler go babyface and Del Rio go heel? Like, what do you think happens here?
I think it has to be that. I mean, there's no way it would make any sense to have the babyface attack the heel's concussion unless you're going to do a double turn here. And that was, I think, the whole plan. A lot of people were saying, it was on par with the Austin Bret Hart one from WrestleMania 13, which I'm like, yeah, it's a double turn, but it didn't have the drama or the intensity that one did at all. I mean, that's the greatest double turn in the history of ever. So you can't say that. But I mean, obviously, I think Ziggler now has to be a baby face, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what they can do with him as a baby face. I'm pretty sure eventually Dolph breaks up with AJ, and then he chases Del Rio again for the title. And I think it works because Del Rio only works as a heel. I understand they wanted him to make him the big Mexican superstar, but I mean, there's potential of pretty soon Rey's going to come back, or they're going to figure something else out for a Mexican star. But the Del Rio character only works as a heel, so I think that's the way they have to go.
So what happens tomorrow, do you think, when you have the heel AJ who won the title and her babyface boyfriend just lost the title? It seemed like but by the way that I saw from the feedback, it looked like she was very worried, and she seemed that she didn't like what Del Rio was doing. So, I mean, does she possibly turn babyface, or do we have this weird sort of love issue where one person is the good guy and one person is the bad guy, and eventually they break up?
I think it's going to be that one. However, with what they did with Caitlyn, I mean, Caitlyn could snap and be like the new heel in the Diva division, and then AJ, I guess, come to her senses, just like, I just did these mind games to get the title or whatever. But I think for now, maybe they'll probably do the heel AJ and Dolph, turn babyface, and then there's the tension or something, and then eventually, I guess, Big E kind of turns on Dolph and gets his own run with AJ.
Yeah, and because that's the other thing is, supposedly based on storyline, Big E and AJ have some sort of friendship that goes, beyond, and that's why she pulled him in as the bodyguard. But she had been kind of mean to him in storyline in the recent weeks, leading many to think that maybe he's turning babyface. But I wonder if he stays heel and Dolph goes baby, and she still has someone she can just be his valet or his manager. So the match that we skipped over, Dean Ambrose against Kane for the U.S. title. Ambrose retains via countout after DDT on the floor. It sounds like this match was the one that was just kind of there and not too many people were excited about.
Yeah, this one dragged. Went on maybe a little too long, not like overly long, but just a bit too long. I wasn't really feeling this match. It just kind of was there and dragged. And then the finish was a little, uncreative. It's like all of a sudden WWE creative's just like, countouts. This is genius. Let's just keep doing this. So Kane took a DDT on the floor, and then Dean Ambrose got back in at the count of 7, and then Kane got counted out. So that was the match. I mean, the only interesting spot per se was, Ambrose tried to do old school, and Kane, didn't let that happen. But I mean, kind of interesting per take storyline. But this didn't do anything for me. I know these two can have way better matches.
And they will probably have a longer match on Raw or SmackDown. Just that's kind of how they do it. So then. Interesting placement of this next match. CM Punk versus Chris Jericho. Obviously, Punk was tremendously over. He was the babyface, though. And this is where I came in. Jericho didn't really turn heel. Like, he played subtly a little bit, but he wasn't very visibly a heel. They had what you'd expect to be the match, especially as how it was built up. CM Punk, he's got that crowd in the palm of his hands, and they're just going to go ape crap over everything that he does. In comparison, do you think this match was better than Punk Undertaker from WrestleMania?
See, I don't know if we can make that comparison because WrestleMania, it's the biggest show of the year and it's totally a different crowd. There's a lot more casuals in a crowd like that than, say, this show, which you could tell there was a lot of hardcores there. So I don't think you can make that comparison. And Taker and Jericho work two different styles, so I'm not going to make that comparison. But I mean, this is probably the best match those two had. I heard lots of good things about the match they had at Extreme Rules that I didn't see, but I last year's Extreme Rules, but I didn't get to see that one. But this one was really great. I mean, it was a pure, technical wrestling style match. I think basically this one, I mean, I agree Jericho was not going to turn heel, but he had to kind of be heel in this one a little bit. But I think the interesting thing is after the match, after Punk got the win, you could hear Punk say, I can do this myself. So there's probably going to be some breakup with him and Heyman in the coming weeks.
And I sure hope it's a natural thing because, during the whole thing with The Rock, it was so much of I'm a Paul Heyman guy. And they seem like such the perfect team. I just hope they don't skip the steps in the story when they do break these guys up because there's definitely like a true partnership when it comes to these guys. It's just not like Paul Heyman just sort of manages him. Like they really have tons of chemistry together, and they were awesome as a team. So I hope that if they do break them up, there's a good explanation and something that we can sort of go, okay, like that makes sense. And with being that it's Heyman and Punk, I think they will do that. I just. It seems like they want to turn him baby face, maybe to set him up for Lesnar or something. But I just hope it's natural and organic, and it's not something that they just decided like last week.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, I mean, Heyman and Punk, they're going to have their blueprints all over that. And WWE seems recently to allow Heyman's ideas or, Heyman have a big influence on the company with, pushing on the younger guys and, strength and development. So I think they'll do it the right way with those two in control.
So, what do you think about the placement? Was it the right thing to put them 2 matches before the main event?
No. I think 2 matches actually kind of works because that match deserved its own, glory and place on the card. Plus, it needed the time to, for it to be such a good match or anything resembling of a good match. And those two, they needed the time, they got the time, and it worked out. And plus, even though we had the tag match with, Daniel Bryan, who's been probably the best guy in the company for the past month, I would say, there needed to be a bit of a filler before we got to the main event, even though I felt the main event kind of was the filler. But I wasn't upset with the placement. I was happy to see, 2 guys have a wrestling match. Like, this show kind of felt like a old Crockett-style show from the late 80s.
So we had the tag team title match, like you said. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton. I think... Actually, the one thing that we didn't mention, that we probably should mention, is that they announced the return of RVD for Money in the Bank, which makes me believe that he's going to be in one of those Money in the Bank matches. Are you excited to see RVD back on WWE TV?
Absolutely. I mean, Rob's one of the best, I guess legends you could say that still has the ability to go. Plus, it's been a while since he's been in WWE. I think he left WWE in, 2007? So it's been a long period of time. And there's a lot of guys that, I'm interested to see him have matches with, like obviously the Punks and the Zigglers, the Daniel Bryans, the Seth Rollins, the Dean Ambroses. So, I mean, there's a lot of potential there for him coming back to have good matches with, too.
So, now we talk about the tag team title. I thought it was good. I think the problem is that, we've seen so many good tag team matches on Raw and SmackDown of late that were a little bit longer and probably a little bit better, but they still did the things that they needed to do. When Daniel Bryan got the hot tag, he went nuts again. And he went out and he did his, hit that running tope. And this is, he had been hitting it and hitting it and hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And, just the fact that he'd been doing that move successfully, for so long, and it's kind of like a build up to that move. The Shield moves out of the way and he blasts Orton with it, and I thought, wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But sadly, at least sadly to me, it didn't really play into the finish. I thought they could have gotten a lot of mileage out of that because of the fact that he'd been hitting it so consistently. I would have liked it, to maybe be part of the finish, but it wasn't. Daniel Bryan is back in the ring, and he is almost about to get speared by Roman Reigns. Orton comes back in the ring, and he tries for the RKO, doesn't get it, and Reigns is still ready for the spear. And Orton, I don't know if he was supposed to just move out of the way or if he was really supposed to throw Daniel Bryan into the spear, but he kind of just grabs Bryan and sets him up in the perfect spot to get speared. So Bryan gets speared. Orton finally hits the RKO, but he gets pushed out of the ring, and then Seth Rollins with the curb stomp on Bryan to win the match. What were your thoughts, and what did you think about the finish?
First of all, I love the finish. I love Seth Rollins' finish. I mean, that's just a nasty version of a curb stomp. And plus, Daniel Bryan took it like he freaking died out there. So that was awesome. I like the match, and like you said, the problem is there's been so many great tag matches on the past couple of weeks of TV that, it's kind of disappointing when your worst tag match of 3 previous weeks is the one you have to pay to see. But I had no problems with it. It was a good match. All 4 guys went in there and did a solid effort, and it looks like we finally may get heel Randy Orton for the first time in ever.
Did you feel like they should have actually gone to the breakup here, though?
Not really. I'd be fine. Raw needs to have something happen on it, right?
Yeah, but okay. So do you think what they'll do is sort of what they always do, which is, Randy Orton really apologizes, and then they tag up again, and finally they do the turn. It seems like that's what they do often in these kind of situations.
Yeah, and I think they'll have the turn, and maybe the next 6, Randy Orton apologizes, and he'll be like, I'm sorry, I didn't do it sooner," quote British Bulldog from 1995.
and the reason why I don't like that, though, is because if they do that, it makes Daniel Bryan look kind of dumb as the babyface. But who knows? Maybe they'll turn Bryan heel instead, which I think would be a mistake. But yeah, so I guess the reason why I wanted to see it tonight is because there's an actual reason. Orton could say, he could as a heel, hey, you hit me first, and then thus, me moving out of the way was payback for you. And that, that's sort of how they do it. I just don't want them to do this whole thing tomorrow where Orton apologized and he's like, look, we get a rematch and we're going to, make amends for our mistakes last night. We haven't tagged that often, but now we're ready. And then, he kind of does it tomorrow. I understand it's going to make more of an impact on Raw because more people will see it, and it'll sort of be they'll be able to build off of this match. But I would have loved to see it tonight for what it's worth. Okay, so main event time: Ryback versus Cena. The thing about this 3 stages of hell match is the fact that you call it a 3 stages of hell match gives away the finish of them having to do 3 falls. I always thought that was really dumb. So lumberjack match to me just feels like old school wrestling, and I don't know if that's good or bad. I think it's really goofy. I always thought the idea of a lumberjack match was really goofy because I guess maybe when I was younger, I could buy that, oh yeah, all the baby faces hang out with each other and all the heels hang out with each other. But in WWE 2013, that doesn't seem to be even, they don't even fake that anymore. So the idea that, you have these heels on the outside who are, just for whatever reason, just want to beat up the good guy, and then all the good guys, for whatever reason, want to beat up the bad guy when he gets thrown out. I think it's kind of silly and outdated, but I think they did okay with it. It was not very long for a first fall. So, by the end of it, all those guys disappeared. But Ryback hits the shell shocked to win the first fall, and so they go to the tables match. Now, I thought the finish for the tables match is pretty much what you thought it would be, which is, Ryback setting up his finisher and then Cena maneuvering out of it, and then he gets AA'd into the table to break it. Now, if Ryback actually does the shell shock through the table, who gets the fall?
Actually, wouldn't that be Cena? Well, I guess it would be Cena. I mean, Cena would get the fall because Ryback, goes through first. But
yeah, that was quite interesting to me. I was thinking, like, is that what you really want to do here? Did you think this one through? But I mean, it worked. It worked for them sort of transitioning out of that. But just the sort of the logic around it was kind of awkward. So they go to the third fall, and it is an ambulance match. And I guess maybe I don't remember ambulance matches all that well because all they did was they just worked most of the match around and through and off of the ambulance. Cena threw Ryback into an open door, and Ryback went through it and ripped the door off the hinges. I thought that was actually kind of cool. But they get to the top of the ambulance, and the way that Cena wins is he actually puts Ryback through the top of the ambulance, with the AA. So he doesn't open the back of the ambulance and have to put him on a stretcher or, push him in and then have someone drive off, which is how I sort of remembered that working. But now, the new way to win this match is just to throw him through the roof of the car and he falls in and you win. And that was that. So they ended the show with Cena, there's something with Cena and cars. Like, didn't he and Dave Bautista, throw each other off of cars? In one of Dave's last matches, Cena loved just tossing people on top of cars. So the match ends. Cena is still the champ. Now, my question to you, because I already know sort of your thoughts about it, as, it was just okay for what it was. But what do you do with Ryback, who can't win for shit and is supposedly this menacing heel, but he just can't win any matches? He's kind of like the bridesmaid rather than the bride in WWE right now.
I think, well, first of all, you give him some time off. I think he's going to get some time off, especially based on that type of a finish that just happened where he went through the top of an ambulance. So I don't know. I really am interested because, Mark Henry's going to be on Raw. And the way it seems, just based on reading Mark Henry's Twitter, is that he's going to announce his retirement. That's the way I think it came across. Maybe you could have Ryback, beat him down and then, be a mid-Carter type heel for a little bit. I really don't know. And I think, or my idea, have RVD and Ryback in an attire on a pole match.
Yeah, they do have some. Their clothing is very similar. So now I can't imagine that they go through with another Ryback match. We have this Money in the Bank pay-per-view coming up. Nobody wants to see Cena and Ryback again. Absolutely nobody. So there's been lots of I guess rumors about who's going to be Cena's next opponent, and the thought was maybe it's going to be Daniel Bryan, but it seems like Daniel Bryan's involved in this thing with Randy Orton. So who's going to be the next guy for Cena, for Money in the Bank and then for SummerSlam?
Well, I think for SummerSlam we'll figure it out after Money in the Bank. Probably we'll figure out a contender, but I really don't know. Maybe Cena doesn't even work Money in the Bank. Maybe he's just there as a spectator. But they'll have someone. I don't know. I really don't know. If it's Ryback again, people would be pissed. I know I would be. I'm just thinking about guys who are possibly ready for him, and I can't think of anybody who would be ready for him yet. And because obviously the thought is Daniel Bryan could be, because he's been so hot, but moving him into this Orton program may change that. Maybe it's Cena versus the Shield in some sort of kind of tag match or something. He's got to find a partner. I don't know. I'd be fine with putting the Shield in
in a main event thing with him. I just don't know how you would sort of make it mean anything, being that it's a tag match. So I guess that's it for the show. I guess we'll find out more things tomorrow as far as where they're going. But overall, best pay-per-view of the year for WWE. Did you like any other pay-per-view better than this one so far?
I'd say it was pretty. I'd say, I guess, from the enjoyment factor, I would say it'd be better than WrestleMania in terms of that. I mean, I thought WrestleMania was pretty good this year too. So I'd say, yeah, this is pretty up there. I'd say this is a really good to great pay-per-view. So, I mean, I'd say, I recommend, watching the replay or, when it comes out on DVD, getting it. So, really good show, I'd say.
All right. So, that was a little bit of a quick review, but, for a show that is, it's not one of the bigger ones, but a lot of times those are the better shows. You remember a lot of those Backlash shows, which are kind of just like WrestleMania rematches given more time. They were generally the best ones, and Extreme Rules from last year was awesome for mostly for the same reason.
And Money in the Bank 2011 from the same building this one was in tonight.
Yeah, and maybe where's the Money in the Bank? Is Philadelphia this year, right?
Yes, that's where. That's why I guess Rob's coming back there since it's in Philly.
Yeah, so that would actually be pretty cool. All right, so so we're done here. We'll be doing more WrestleMania 30 for 30s. This week you'll actually see the WrestleMania 6 30 for 30 go up, and that's Hogan and Warrior, and there's lots of stuff to talk about there. That will go out this week, and 7 probably a week or two after that. And we are backlogged as far as recording through almost the first third of these shows. So actually been a really fun experience. If you are a fan of wrestling, WrestleMania history, wrestling history, check out those shows on FightGameBlog.com. So for the Dirty White Boy, I am Double G, and we will see you when we see you. Peace out.